All right, guys, I know. There's no way to sugarcoat that. Frustrating loss, 15-18. The Bears go down to the Commanders. But I am going to say this. Don't let overreaction overtake this week for Bears fans. I said that on Twitter as well. Don't let overreaction take over this fan base because the reality is the defense did their job again. They held an opponent under 21 points again for the 11th straight week. Almost a full year they've been playing like that. And the Commanders' offense was pumping into this game 30-plus points per game. Yes, I realize the Bears were too. 5 touchdowns, 2 straight games in a row. It's frustrating to have the offense stutter like that, struggle, just absolutely lay a brick until the fourth quarter. But I'm going to take this from that, okay? And this is the only thing I'm going to – and then I'm going to go into the grades of the game. This is early. I usually do this on Monday. I got a lot going on tomorrow. In fact, I haven't posted a lot lately because I just got a ton going on. I'm still balancing a lot of stuff with I have another job. I got kids. I got everything else. Anyways, blah, blah, blah. That's not important for here. These are unofficial grades. They're going to be pretty accurate, but they're unofficially unofficial because they take a day to fact check them with PFF, and they don't mean everything anyway. So it really isn't going to destroy the basis of this channel. We're just going to do a quick glimpse into the look of this game. But that last drive, that was very huge for a young team. Caleb Williams not only once but twice drove down on a game-winning drive. Yes, I understand we fumbled it, the handoff between him and Doug Kramer on the first attempt to get that drive, but then the defense stopped again, and we drove all the way down again. In the fourth quarter, this offense looked like it was clicking and determined to win that game. And that's very important. Huge takeaway. Let's take the victories where they are because that, in reality, they won this game. They did it. They won this game. Moral victory, I know, but they won it. Hightower is going to be after the special teams for that picture on the screen right there. You don't tip it up. You box everyone out. I'm sure everyone feels terrible about it. I'm sure Tavarius Moore right there in the picture. It's like, I should have blocked him out, but I was in the back. You lose someone. You know the rules of special team. A Hail Mary, you always block everyone out. Yes, I know, guys, there was a holding. There were 2 holdings. There were possibly 3 holdings up in line. They're never going to call it. So the same thing down here in the end zone, they probably wouldn't have called it either if they just backed up and tackled or backed up and really boxed out 85 there. It is what it is. We lost the game on a fluke loss, and that's what it is. Doesn't help us in the win-loss column. Instead of 11 wins, we'll probably be closer to 10. These divisional games are going to become more important than ever. They're going to be extremely important for this team down the stretch. So it's important to build off of this, and I think they will. I think this team has the right mentality. Caleb was clearly frustrated on the sideline after that. A lot of the defensive players were dejected that they let that happen. This doesn't define the defense. Even with a crap Hail Mary at the end of the game, we only allowed 18 points. Before that, only 12 on 4 field goals. That's all it was. So I'm okay with this loss. I don't like it. I know instant reaction, overreaction is, oh, this team sucks. We got to get all new offensive linemen. We got to get more pressure. We got to get better defender. We got to get this, that, A, B, C, D. It's not reality. You lose tough games every once in a while. I mean, look at the Browns pulling off a couple of victories against teams they should have never pulled a victory off. In all reality, I think the Bears would beat the Commanders if they were playing the same defense, but the offense came clicking before the fourth quarter. Probably beat these guys 5 out of 8 times. In reality, I really believe that. So I'm not going to hang my head on this one. I'm not going to sit and dwell on it. People will be talking about it all week. But it is what it is, and that's the reality of it. So let's just get into the PFF grades. You guys know I like to do this. It doesn't mean everything. Preface that again. This doesn't mean everything, but it gives a clear picture of the team and who's progressing well. I tweeted out in the middle of the game, Matt Pryor was playing terrible. The entire second half of the game, Matt Pryor was probably our best offensive lineman. He really turned it around. The big struggle there, you see neither Braxton Jones or Kieran Amagaji are on the offensive stud list. You see Matt Pryor. You see Tevin Jenkins, who I think really played better than Matt Pryor, but that's why I say PFF grades don't mean everything, but this gives you a small glimpse. And for this, those who haven't watched a lot, I give the guys who played 65 or better. I probably should do 70 or better for studs, the category stud. But starter quality to me is 65 or above. So Bill Murray only in on 2 snaps, so you take that for what it is. But Roshan Johnson, Darnell Wright, DJ Moore, Coleman Shelton, Tevin Jenkins, DeAndre Swift, Rome Odunze, and Matt Pryor. And that really does pass most of the eye test, to be real about that, too. I mean, these are the guys that probably pass the eye test the most as well. Ooh, we can take our little clicker today. We'll do that, the bear down clicker. We're going to bring that in here. And you see the total plays. Excuse me, guys. Total plays they were in on this one. So there's the plays, there's the passing plays, pass blocking plays, run blocking plays, and their overall offensive grade. So Matt Pryor with the best grade right there. Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift. Rome Odunze actually had a really decent game. So I'm pleased with his play. So on next, we go to the pass blocking grades. This is all of them, not just studs. And you see there at the bottom, Coleman Shelton really laid an egg, especially the second half for his pass blocking. But run blocking was really good, and his overall grade was really good. So it's tough. That's why you have to take these things in context. He wasn't terrible. He did give up more pressure than he should have, though. Tevin Jenkins' pass blocking grade, like I said, probably our best offensive lineman for sure. Doug Kramer was only in on 8 plays for that, 81.6, though. Matt Pryor, 75. Braxton Jones, 73. I don't think that matches up with him. Only 10 plays. I don't think that matches. He was playing kind of poorly. Kieran Amagaji, the reason his grade's so good is the first 5 or 6 plays he came in, he played really, he was blocking 2 guys at once. And then for whatever reason, it's like the pressure got to him, rookie moment, lost his head, and he played terrible the whole rest of the game. So this 68 doesn't match up with that either. Darnell Wright really played really poorly the first part of the game, and then second half turned it up. So all these things are in context just to give you guys an idea of the grades on them and where they stand with them. We'll move on to the run blocking grades. Oh, no, offensive pass block. Sorry, I put this. I don't usually put this in this early because you can't see all the other teams' grades yet, but I snagged the Bears in game. All this except for the highlighted part here is before the game. So we'd moved all the way up to 18th in pass block efficiency, but we allowed a lot of pressure in this game, 11 pressures. It's really 2 sacks. This is where PFF's not always accurate. So this will change a little bit, but this grade's probably going to be pretty accurate. 81 is in the bottom 4th of the league-ish per week when you do that. You see 29th and 26th in prior years where we were right around that same. So we regressed here. Our pressure, and you saw it, we allowed too much pressure from their defensive players. Their defensive line was getting in on us, and Caleb really saved a ton of sacks. I mean, probably should have been sacked 4 or 5 times. And his elusiveness, his escapability really paid off. Got a ton of chunk yards. He really did a good job of escaping that, getting somewhere he needed to. It was rough. It was rough to watch the pass blocking, or the pressure. So that was tough to see. Here's the run blocking, a little bit better, but you see there at the bottom you got guys like Braxton Jones, Kieran Amagaji, and that doesn't help when the two that are in the same position, allowing it's not easy to get off that edge over there. Tevin Jenkins, stud. Matt Pryor, stud. Coleman Shelton, stud. Darnell Wright, stud. So just it is what it is for some of those guys. But there's the pass blocking grades. Try to go through this a little quicker. Offensive duds, Braxton Jones and Kieran Amagaji right down there by 50. 50 is where I don't like guys to be, so that's where I put my duds. Streak broken. We had three weeks in a row where nobody was on the duds list. The dunce cap. So here's the defensive studs. Byron Cowart, Austin Booker. Same thing on this. You got your total plays over here. So obviously Byron Cowart, Austin Booker weren't in on as many plays. So our studs were the guys that were rotating in. Terrell Smith, I think, really played well in this game, but he really didn't get a lot of rotation in. And Tyreek Stevenson was struggling. So, no, I'm not saying bench Tyreek Stevenson for Terrell Smith. Not saying that at all, but Terrell Smith did look good, better than Tyreek Stevenson in my mind. Chris Williams looked pretty decent when he was in there, as always. Jacob Martin, good to see him on his first game. He looked good. Montez Sweat looked absolutely stellar. So the 74, like I said, I'm giving you my eye test, and I'm giving you what PFF grades say. I think Montez Sweat looked absolutely awesome. Probably the best player on the team for this game. I mean, if we're straight up calling it how it is, Montez Sweat was absolutely the best defensive end, best player on the defense for this game for sure. Jack Sanborn had a good game in the place he was in. Andrew Billings, Austin Booker. We'll move over to the pressure now. So the pass rush, and this is where Montez Sweat, that's where that shows up. TJ Edwards as well. Pass rush only had 7 of them. Let me make this a little bit smaller. So these are the pass rush opportunities here. As you go down, Gervon Dexter, I thought, had a poor game for his pressure. Looked like last year's Gervon Dexter. Just looked sluggish and slow. He was getting double-teamed a lot. So let's be fair. He did get double-teamed. They had a game plan for him, and he was really getting hammered on. He broke through a couple times, but it's not the same big Dex we're used to seeing. So don't misconstrue that as me saying he was a bottom of the team guy. That we were used to see him get breakthrough and causing disruptions, and you didn't see that from the middle of the line today. You saw a little bit from Big Bill, not even from Chris Williams. Maybe one play there. Byron Cowart a little bit. He's only in on 6 plays, so not a ton. Darrell Taylor, I thought, looked really good. The 63 seems a little bit low. I think he looked really good in the game. And even Austin Booker on the plays he was in looked pretty good as well. DeMarcus Walker, the eye test as well. I need to go watch him again because I didn't notice him a lot. And usually if you don't notice them, it means they weren't having that good of a game. But my eyes weren't focused on him, but I wasn't noticing him. He's got the lowest pass rush grade, so it means he probably had a bad game. But I can't really say without going back to watch on him. Here is the total pressures. Now, this is PFF, so they're always off. Their sacks are off, their pressures are off. So this is very early on, so don't take this one as gospel. Don't take this one as truth for where everyone is. But as you're looking at your defensive ends, defensive left end, defensive right end, defensive tackle, as you look those guys down, 7, like I said, Darrell Taylor and Montez Sweat looked pretty freaking good for this game, especially if you look over at that win percentage. It's different for linebackers like TJ Edwards. He's going to be blitzing. It's going to be a little different for him. So his pass rush opportunities, 7. He had pressure on 3 of them. He had a win rate of 3 out of 7. So it's different for them when they're blitzing and doing that. But you look at your defensive ends, when you see a 21.7, Montez Sweat had a phenomenal game. And his pressure grade by PFF, PRP, 21 combined with a 17.4, that's absolutely phenomenal. DeMarcus Walker, like I said, I didn't notice him that. Looking at this, 5.6, 4.2, that's really low. And then if you look down at Jervon Dexter, 5.3 and 2.6, that's really low for him especially. So it's not the best game for him. But like I said, he got double teamed a lot. He did get a lot of focus on him, a lot more than normal, a lot more than other teams have. So there's context to everything, but he needs to break through some of that too. Chris Williams, 25 and 12.5, so that's really good. Only 4 opportunities, so it means he won out of the 4. So things in context there too. Byron Cowart, 16.7, so 1 out of the 6. So everything in context, but overall, the pressure wasn't as bad as everyone made it seem like. The bigger thing, and this isn't going to be on this video on stats, so I'm just going to mention it here. The bigger thing is you noticed when they would get out of their lanes or when things would break down or when they'd take a little bit too long, you'd see Jaden Daniels find an alley and he would take off and he'd get 5, 10, 15 yards rushing. He has that Justin Fields ability where he can navigate through that. And if they're not containing all those lanes, it's something you see on the game, but you don't see a ton here in the box scores or on the PFF. And so it hurt a little bit there because if they weren't there lickety-split, if they weren't there within 2.5, 3 seconds, he would be able to find some of those, and that really ruined those opportunities. But other than that, I mean, this many pressures, this isn't going to be accurate, but you look 14, 20, 26, 30, 34-ish is what they're saying. So even if it's down at 25, that's solid pressures for this team against that offense. In fact, if we go back to this screen here, you'll see number 5 before this week. Washington had only allowed 4 sacks all year, and the Bears just got 2 on them, so that's good. And they'd only allowed 47 pressures all year, and the Bears, that says they got 33, but it's probably closer. With the way PFF grades, it's probably closer to 25 to 30, 25 to 28. Which is, they played 6 games and they've only allowed 47. And if the Bears just got half of what they've already allowed in one game, that means they did their job pretty well on defense. So like I said, the defense did a pretty good job. Yes, you'd like to see 4 or 5 sacks against Jaden Daniels, but that's not realistic against this Washington Commanders offensive line. They're really stacked. And the fact that we got half the sacks they've already had through 6 games and half the pressures they already had through 6 games, that means this defensive line did a really good job. So I'm okay with it. I accept how that went. I mean, remember, we held them to 12 points, 18, including the Hail Mary. So they did a good job doing their part. Part I was a little more frustrated with was probably the coverage grades. You see here, Austin Booker doesn't count, defensive end. Cornerback, Terrell Smith had the best grade out of anybody. So like I said, he passed the eye test a little bit, but he only played 8 snaps there. Then you got another linebacker, Josh Blackwell. And then you look down, Jalen Johnson here at the bottom. It was a very unusual game for him. He allowed 3 out of the 5 targets to him to be catches. And he was just a little bit out of position most of the game. There was a couple catches, especially in the first half. The long one, I don't know, it was 15, 20 yards near the end zone that he really gave up. It looked like he lost his footing almost. So, I mean, even for him, it wasn't, for a normal cornerback, it wasn't terrible. You can have a couple of blunders, but for Jalen Johnson, he's usually locked down. And he had big moments where he is locked down, a couple of really big ones, especially where he stopped Zach Ertz, who's much bigger than him. And he did a good job. But overall, I mean, Elijah Hicks allowed everything thrown to be caught by him, and he was out of position. He's getting credited. This is lower for him, too. I think he really should be right up here around 60-ish. He did decent for filling in and backing up. Hopefully Jaquan Brisker's back soon. But they credit him with the Hail Mary. They credit him as the one who gave up the Hail Mary, which didn't kill his score, but it did bring it down a little bit. So I would expect he'd be up around 60 if they took that out. I thought Tyreek Stevenson was a little bit off today too. A couple big plays, but when you look at it, he allowed only 9 out of the 9 targets, only 4 receptions. So not terrible. We missed Kyler Gordon. His big hitting was missing. Josh Blackwell just doesn't hit nearly as big. He allowed 2 out of 3 of his targets, but he played decently. So there's not a lot to deduce out of here other than the especially against the Commanders. I felt like our coverage just needed to step up a little bit more. We allowed way too many first downs. There were way too many first downs given up. They had a good blend. We did stop the run pretty well. They had some big chunk plays, but overall we stopped them where it mattered, which was in the red zone. So overall, I mean, I'm making it sound like it was bad. I just wanted it to be. We didn't get any takeaways. I'd give him a B-, but I was hoping for this grade to be B+, A-. But they did stop him to 4 field goals and then 1 Hail Mary. So I'm not going to crucify him over this for sure. I don't think they're the reason for the loss. That's not what I'm saying at all. Just giving you the guys my quick analysis, my quick insight, and where I see from the game. And I'll put it on here, but really, I don't want to hammer on these guys too hard. TJ Edwards has just been out of position a lot in his coverage grades. Just not playing up to TJ. He did get a sack. That was a good sack, and he looked pretty good doing that. But his overall defensive grade, 45.5, not spectacular. Elijah Hicks, Jalen Johnson getting picked on a little bit, but I'm not going to sit and focus on this screen, so I'm going to move past that. Special teams. There's only one guy to really point out for special teams today, and I'm going to point out here, this hang time, that's a pretty dang good hang time. I mean, you could watch the game and you could see it. He put a couple out of bounds at the right spots. Really, he helped the field position a ton of the game. Torrey Taylor, really made this game stay 12 points until the last play of the game. 65-yard punt, inside the 25 out of the 7. Overall, I mean, it's a huge difference. You can see that he's worth the 4th-round pick. He looked really good. He put that one out of bounds right about the 5-yard line. I mean, it's just spectacular. So Torrey Taylor looked great. The only last thing to go over is Caleb Williams and his passing. I've done this every week. I'm going to show here. I started highlighting the deep part because everyone was criticizing him for the first couple games. And this is week 5. I always do 3 weeks in a row. Here's week 6. And he's improved every week. Looked really phenomenal the last couple weeks. Here's week 7. Doesn't look bad. There's people on Twitter saying it looked terrible going deep. No, there was a lot of pressure in his freaking face the whole game. I think he navigated it the best he could. And he really had elusiveness and escaped a lot. You can see 0 for 2 over here, 1 for 3 here, 1 for 1 here, 0 for 2, and 1 for 3. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad Caleb Williams game. There's people saying that. But, I mean, you take the stats out of it, you look at the first quarter especially, it almost looked like he had jitters. I don't know if he's being honest about moments getting to him or getting nervous because it looked like playing at home in Washington, family there, whatever, people in this. I don't know. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm not speaking for him, but it did look off. Like that first quarter especially looked really off. Like he was missing. He looked like Jordan Love, missing targets, and the line wasn't the same as Jordan Love's. So he had that pressure in his face and then trying to navigate. There aren't guys 10 yards open like the Packers have had. So it was very frustrating. I'm sure it was for him. You could see the frustration visible for him in the first and second quarters. But I felt like he handled it well. So you're going to see your stat sheets here. You're going to see that it, whatever. 1 for 1 to the right there, 1 for 3 over the middle, 1 for 3 deep left, 0 for 2 to the right. But no interceptions. I mean, he wasn't putting the ball in harm's way. He had to throw it away several times because people just weren't open. So I'm not going to hammer on Caleb at all over this game. There's people already hammering on him. There's people doing the whole Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams thing. If you want to get right down to the nitty-gritty of that, the fact is Jaden Daniels never even pushed his team down for a touchdown. You can say the Hail Mary was Jaden Daniels. It wasn't. That wasn't Jaden Daniels. There were several holdings back there, and I'm not saying they should have called him because it's a Hail Mary. That's what happens. The defense has to step up and knock the ball down or box everyone out and do the same thing. If they don't call those penalties up on the line, they're not going to call them back in the end zone. So, get away with a tug or a push or a pull, but they didn't have anybody on 85 back there. So that's a little frustrating, but I'm not going to give credit to Jaden Daniels for that. He didn't get into the end zone. Caleb Williams marched down 3 times and really should have, but they fumbled the one at the 1-yard line. So I'm not going to do the whole comparison. They're both good quarterbacks. I've said that before the draft even happened. I've said they're both good quality quarterbacks that should be in this league for years and years. They should be the starters for the Bears and Commanders for the next decade. They both should. I believe that. So Caleb, though, with the frustrating loss, I'm sure he's frustrated over it. I'm sure he doesn't want this to be what defines his career, but there shouldn't be hammering on Caleb for this loss. I think he played really, really well in the fourth quarter, especially in the way that he navigated and took the team down, put them on his back, and really led them. There were some clean, crisp, really good-looking throws for a rookie quarterback. Good composure in the fourth quarter, comeback. I mean, you knew when he got the ball that he was going to take them down and give them a shot. So I think he did a great job. I really do. You take the first half out, you have to dissect this thing and break it down. And, yeah, there's a lot of negative you can take from it. We lost. An L is an L. A loss is a loss. It is what it is. You move on from it because this isn't one you hang your head. Of all the games to hang your head over, this is not it because you came down. You had a game-winning drive where you came back. You even got the 2-point conversion to stop him from tying it on a field goal. And that's just a fluke thing. Sometimes that happens. You've seen a couple Hail Marys through the year, and they happen. And the special teams, I'm sure they want to take it back. I'm sure, Stevenson wishes he could have got his hand on the ball right there and just batted it forward. I'm sure, all these guys are having regret. And I'm not blaming Stevenson. I'm just saying I'm sure they all have those regrets, and it is what it is because you can't change it. But the reality is the offense did a great job marching down. They punched it in. They took the lead with under a minute to play. The defense did a great job the whole game, and then it's just one fluke play. So it is what it is. On to the next one. We'll have more throughout. I'll do my rankings and everything else. But until next time, I'm okay with this loss. I don't like the loss. I wish we won. I'm okay with it. Dabears.